Jack Perkins, Scott Brosius, and Scott Feldman. 3 eras, 1 code. This is baseball's real story. Today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Booney, one name, all passion. And in 1 year of hosting Locked On A's, I could say today is the best show I have ever put together. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Baseball isn't just about innings and averages. It's about the grind. It's the journey from elbow surgeries, the empty ballparks, and the 30th round phone call nobody saw coming. Today on Locked On A's, we are bringing you 3 different generations of that journey. From Jack Perkins, the young firebrand who fought his way back from Tommy John to earn his shot in the big leagues with the A's, to Scott Brosius, the World Series MVP who lived through the fall of one dynasty and the rise of another, to Scott Feldman, who has pitched in baseball's biggest stage, the journeyman pitcher who's seen the game evolve and maybe lose a bit of its soul along the way. In this episode, we dig into the evolution of the game, from the bulldog mentality to the analytics era, from clubhouse camaraderie to the culture shift that changed baseball forever. You will hear how each player defines what it means to compete, to lead, and to stay true to yourself when the sport you love keeps reinventing itself. This isn't nostalgia. It's perspective from the men who have been there, who have earned every pitch, and who know what baseball's heartbeat really feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the toughest one was Tommy John I had at the end of my freshman year at Louisville.
Okay.
Kind of like I said before, like coming out of high school, there's a lot of hype. I worked my way into the midweek starter role for Louisville. It's kind of one of the things were starting to go great. I was starting to get the confidence and be the player who I was trying to, people thought I could be, I guess.
Okay.
And then the injury hits. Come back from injury, missed all of sophomore year and junior years there. And again, a lot of expectation. It's like projected first round or preseason All-American, all these things. And I felt like I was trying to live up to an expectation rather than just trust the process of who is Jack Perkins, what does Jack Perkins do really well, and how do I do that on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like I was just really trying to please other people, I guess. And through that journey for me, my faith became super important. Like I really locked into that and what that meant to me in my life. And going forward, it just allowed me to have a much freer and fresher perspective on life and on the game itself. Granted, I'm a perfectionist at heart. Like I'm always going to do whatever I can to be the best that I can. But it allowed me to realize that, you're going to fail and you have to have grace in those situations, not only for yourself, but other people have to have grace for you as well, that you're going to bounce back from that. So that was probably the toughest one for me. But in terms of now how I'm feeling, I feel great. I think it was just a small bump in the road and still rehabbing hard and getting ready to be ready for spring training. So super, super excited for next year. I really hated that I had to end the year on the IL, and kind of with the way things were progressing, I was really starting to find my feet and really excel where I thought I could be, and then the injury bug just kind of hit me. But I'm feeling really good and excited for 2026.
And for me, a young player coming in with our first ownership with the Haas family, everything. It felt like the big leagues. It was first rate. When I came up, if you look at that team, it was loaded across the board. The run of those years from 89, anyway, those early years of the late 80s, early 90s, very good roster, very loaded, crowds, everything. It felt like a big league, stadium. And so then we saw some changes start to happen a little bit. Obviously, some of it was the stadium itself, when Mount Davis was built, so to speak. Sure. And so we saw the stadium change quite a bit. But then we also saw a little direction, the roster, Mark McGwire getting traded, Terry Steinbach moving on. You start to go down the list of all the veteran, higher paid players were kind of moving off the roster and into that transition into younger, rosters without a lot of that experience. And we saw a little change in direction, certainly, and where we ended up being in the standings. And so we went from that place of being kind of that playoff contender every year to one struggling to keep up.
So you were part of one of the most iconic World Series games ever. Game 6, bottom 10. Rangers were up 9-7, up 3-2. There was one out, runners at first and third. Ryan Theriot comes up. You get him to ground out softly to third. So 2 outs. Pujols coming up with Berkman on deck. Was there any type of debate whether to pitch to Pujols and rather than Berkman, considering it's righty on righty? And Berkman was a killer left-handed hitter.
Yeah, no, they're both. I mean, it was like pick your poison, right? Those guys are both unbelievable hitters. And to be honest with you, I'm glad it was a decision that I didn't have to make. They make that decision in the dugout. I'm sure they may have discussed it back and forth, but ultimately the decision was made to walk Pujols. I mean, he had a game earlier in that series where he hit 3 home runs and
he was a killer.
Yeah, killer. They both were. And so, I mean, Berkman and I, we had a long at bat, and it was a tough thing for me to deal with, the aftermath of that, just knowing like, man, if I would have got that guy out, we would have won the World Series, and so
he didn't hit it hard. It was a soft single to center.
It was a good at bat. I honestly, I've never actually gone back and watched that game, just because, I got a bad taste in my mouth still to this day. I was so happy when they won the World Series last year, just to kind of give those fans because gosh, we should have won that. But
that was a hell of a series.
It was a hell of a series. But looking back at it, I mean, I was trying to throw cutters up and into him. That was kind of the book on him, and I had a good cutter at the time. And I know that last pitch was not up and in; it was more middle in or middle down. So, it happens. And just got to tip your cap to the hitter sometimes and hope that it doesn't come up in a situation like that.
There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You will always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Priority fees are included. Know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. I love zone deals as well. Pick the section. Game Time picks the seats. You save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I have bought tickets. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Analytics obviously is a big deal in today's game. Pitch design, data. Was there ever something in like in analytics, in a scout chart or report you pushed back on at first, then later realized it was just absolute gold?
I don't know. I think for me, going from Louisville to Indiana, I really had a shift in perspective, just in the mindset of like, I was willing to do whatever it took to get even an ounce better at what I was doing. I think the data and analytics can be over pushed at times. Like I think there's
Okay.
still a place for old school style, old school pitching, the basics, getting ahead, winning the 1-1,
Sure.
bulldog mentality, like just being a competitor on the mound. I feel like that's missed out on so much now because guys are chasing velo or chasing stuff plus or whatever the case may be. So I think from that perspective, analytics can be a little bit overused.
Okay.
But I also think it's all in learning who you are as a pitcher or as a hitter. Like what metrics do you specifically need to key in on that you can look at and be like, all right, when this metric is falling or this metric is rising, things are going good, going great. And that's kind of the few metrics you have to look into. But I think a lot of it is just learning yourself. I feel like each year something new comes out, with what you need to look at or how you need to look at it. But really, I think the A's have done a good job just kind of trusting our scouting guys, trusting our data analytics crew, trusting our biomechanists with what we need to work on. And like I said, but the biggest thing for me is just knowing who you are and know what metrics you really need to look at.
Baseball's changed a lot with analytics, and it's used right now more as a rule rather than a tool. Looking back, do you believe 1987 Scott Brosius with the exact same skill set would be looked at the same today?
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be in for a couple reasons. One that's kind of outside of the current game, but another that is. I mean, outside the game, Linfield, where I played, was an NAIA school at the time.
Yes.
And so we played Portland State, we played Oregon State, we played some Division I schools where there was a lot more scouting. So I'm playing at a small school, but we had the opportunity to play bigger schools. In today's world, Linfield's a Division III school, not an NAIA school. So most of our games are against Division III schools that just aren't scouted the same way and didn't have the opportunity maybe to play some of those other programs where scouts could see you in a different, that bigger environment. So I think number one, I wouldn't have been scouted the same. But number two, I think what they look at now might be different. When I was coaching at Linfield, we had a right-handed pitcher that was our national player of the year, for two-time first-team All-American, but he pitched in the 88 to 92 mile-an-hour range. And I had scouts telling me that as a right-handed pitcher, they don't even put him on their board if he doesn't throw 95 miles an hour.
Jeez.
And so, so there has certainly been movement to power versus, ultimately, I think and I'm sure the analytics would argue against this. Ultimately, I felt like what determines who should pitch is who gets hitters out. Does it really matter how they do it, but who gets
right?
So does Greg Maddux get treated the same way in today's game that he did? Would Greg Maddux be who he is? Would he have, would he have gotten those same opportunities? And so I think in the same way, that move to just straight power, it's just a different game now. And players, again, as a player, you will do what's valued. And so I don't blame the players. This is what's valued. This is what's get you drafted. This is what's get you to the big leagues. You're going to do what teams value. I just think now versus 1987, teams value different things. And so I would have been looked at differently.
Do you like baseball today? What do you think of the game today compared? It almost seems like it's two different games.
It is a different game, no question about it. I don't know what to make of it sometimes. Obviously, I love the game of baseball. The game for me, and having managed and coached as well as played, I think we've lost, just some of the the game is not mentally challenging to watch on TV because you kind of know there's nothing to think along with anymore. There's no bunting, there's no hit and runs. I mean, we have a little bit more stealing we've tried to inject into the game, but the game, the game is just basically power pitching versus power hitting, and so we've lost some of the action of the game. So for me, it's not quite as enjoyable. There's just not as much to think along. But at the same time, and I experienced this for the couple of years that I was with the Mariners here, not too many years ago, I think players today are more prepared. They're bigger, stronger, better athletes than we've ever had in the game. So the talent has grown. So it's something to be appreciated, and we should enjoy just the level of talent we have in our league now. I just wish there was a little bit more. It's just such a one-dimensional game.
Sure.
I think one of the things that made us so good, that what made the Yankees so good, is we had the ability to create runs different ways. We weren't a power-based team. We had great pitching, no doubt about it, and great pitching's always going to, help dictate a winning season. We had great pitching, but offensively, we didn't have to rely on the home runs. Our Tino in '98, we won 114 games. Tino was our top home run hitter. We had 28.
That's amazing.
So we had
Amazing.
We had a deep lineup. We could, for me, it's kind of, having a bunch of arrows in the quiver there, different ways. If it's by bunting, if it's by, hitting, running, moving, whatever it might be, situational hitting seems to, a lot of that is just gone from the game. Runner on second base, nobody out. We're not even trying to move runners over. We're just still swinging hard and trying to drive a pitch. And so I miss that part I miss, but I appreciate the talent of the game.
And you look at yourself back then. I mean, your stuff wasn't necessarily overpowering. You had a lot of movement to your ball. You threw a heavy ball, sinker ball pitcher. Location was a big deal. Do you think if you came up in today's game, the way that scouts are evaluating players, you would be in the same position?
That's tough to say. I don't think I would, actually, because I think what they've sort of done with baseball in a lot of ways is they've turned it into like the NFL combine, right? Like how fast can you throw? What's your spin rate? That kind of stuff, rather than can you get guys out? Can you locate the ball where you want it? Can you make the ball move? Can you go out there and compete? What's this guy's makeup? How does he prepare for games? What kind of teammate is he? All that kind of stuff. So I think those intangibles that were really, really harped on and important back when I was learning the game and coming up, have kind of gotten forgotten. And that's a sad thing. But at the same time, I think that pendulum can swing both ways. And I think we're starting to see, hopefully, that old school stuff kind of come back into the game. Like you're seeing Bruce Bochy just won the World Series last year again with the Rangers. You got they got a baseball guy, Chris Young, running the show there.
Yes.
Buster Posey just kind of came back in and took over for the Giants. So that kind of stuff I think is great. And then, you see with the 2 World Series teams, even they got Dave Roberts, who played for a long time, and obviously Aaron Boone. So running those 2 dugouts. So I think it's great. And I hope that we get back to that kind of stuff. I think that's what baseball is all about. That's what makes it so fun.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I have built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you have got a little something riding on the action. Whether you are a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. What do you want your legacy as a pitcher to be? How do you hope fans and teammates think of you, let's say 5-10 years? What do you want your career to end up being, and how do you want to be thought of?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is just, a good Christian man, someone that your teammates respect for his faith, and someone that always comes into the clubhouse and, says hi to guys, like does the little things, creates a conversation,
Sure.
easy
So
to
important.
talk to,
Yeah.
willing to lead and help others. Like for me, that's super important because through my journey, like that's all I've clung to is the people that are like that are willing to help you out when you need it, even if times are really tough. But also for me, I mean, I want to put on one of those A's green jackets. I want
Yeah.
to stay with the A's for my whole
Yeah.
tenure, and I want to be an athletics Hall of Famer. Like I think that'd be so cool. I think it's so cool to see the guys that are able to stay with an organization for such a long time and get that opportunity. And I love where this organization is heading. Like we're so young, we're so talented. there's so many promising things in the future, and I really want to be a part of that one, but also want to see that through to the end. So I'm hoping that I can, string a good career along here, and like I said, hopefully be able to put on one of those jackets someday.
Now, in 1998, you were a Yankee and arguably part of the greatest baseball team, and you could even make an argument for the greatest sports team ever assembled. You guys were 114-48 in the playoffs. You guys were 11-3. I mean, 125 wins and 50 losses, and you were the MVP, World Series MVP of that team.
Yeah,
you have been in baseball and in sports your whole life, and as a player, as a coach, as an administrator on every team, culture of a team is stressed. 98 was a beginning of the Yankee dynasty. What was that culture like? And compare it to all other teams you've been part of at a collegiate level, at a coaching level, professional level. Was it different? What was it like being in that clubhouse every day?
Yeah, it was different, and I can argue too that the dynasty may have started in '96 when they won. They were knocked out of the playoffs in '97, and then '98, '99, 2000, 2001. So anyway, stretch there. So my point is, I joined a team, I joined a clubhouse that already had a culture of winning, that had won, and so this wasn't something that they were building. This was something that I became a part of, and it was truly. Culture matters. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
Culture matters. Talent is out there. Every team has talent. Obviously, some teams have more money to spend than others, and so there's factors there. But every team has talent, and so culture does matter. The direction of the team, and so I saw it from day one, literally the first day in spring training. So you get traded to a team and you've played against guys and you know them at some level, but you don't know them until you're in the clubhouse with them. And so I'm sitting with Tino Martinez and Paul O'Neill and Bernie Williams and these core groups of guys, Derek Jeter, and we're in just these morning conversations about baseball, about whatever. And it was so apparent from the first day on. There was not a single conversation about contracts, about what I hope to do this year on the field, anything else. It was about, we're getting back to the World Series. We're going to win this thing this year. We're getting back. There was no talk about personal ambitions, personal goals. It was all about the team and how do we win, and the fact that there was just this tremendous drive to get back, to the playoffs and to the World Series and win it. And you take that attitude with the players and couple that with just Joe Torre and his style, and being such an amazing buffer there in New York, because you have all the noise in New York that goes with playing there, with ownership, with fans, with everybody, the expectations. There's just a lot of noise. And Joe was amazing at being a buffer and being that. You guys go out and play. I take care of this stuff. You guys just go out and play the game and do your thing. And so clubhouse was, like I said, amazing. Everybody on the same page. You would go to dinner and there'd be 10 guys together at dinner, and it might be a different set of 10 guys every night. And so no cliques, just truly a roster committed to winning. It's just a different atmosphere. When you're on a young team like the A's were, and a lot of guys that are just striving to stay in the big leagues, there is a difference in how they go about your business. And the truth was, in some of those teams, when you came in and the Yankees came to town, you're looking at, how do we find a way to win a game, or how do we find a way, if all goes right, we can win a series. Where now you're on the other side of this, and the expectation is, we better not drop a game right here. We need to take care of these teams. So just a completely different feel to how you go about the season. You were playing for something, more and beyond the end of the season, where with some of the struggling teams those last couple of years, it was about how do I learn to be a big leaguer, and how do I stay here, and how do I learn to have success.
I loved pitching when I pitched. I think I would have liked to pitch even more, like in the 80s, 90s, like back in the day. But yeah, it was a lot of fun pitching when I pitched. I mean, we had really good camaraderie. The guys, go out to dinner, go out, get a couple drinks after the game. It just seemed like things were a little bit different back then. Nowadays, I haven't been involved with big league baseball since 2017. So that's been a while. But I even saw towards the end of my time playing there, things were starting to change a little bit. And, things like having beer in the clubhouse after a game was kind of looked at as like, that's probably not a good idea. So the camaraderie and the time that guys spent in the clubhouse together talking about baseball and stuff was starting to dwindle down. And, I think that's just stuff that was really special and memories that I'll always cherish and think about. So
pitch count right now is a huge deal, obviously. And we're seeing more and more bullpen games than we have ever seen them. In 2011, you were dominant in that in the playoffs. I believe your first 10 2/3 innings, you struck out 10, didn't allow a walk, no runs, 4 hits. Are these bullpens getting gassed over a postseason period of time?
They may be. I think they do a really good job of monitoring how many pitches guys are throwing and kind of what their workloads are. But I think that, if you're going to continuously just throw your bullpen out there and not give them the proper rest that they need, obviously, by the time the World Series rolls around or the postseason rolls around, sure, they're going to be getting a little taxed.
We hear a lot about the third time through the lineup. The analytics says it's a big deal. You've been there. Is it a big deal?
I mean, when I was playing, we didn't even think about that stuff. It was just like, you don't want to show them your full arsenal, maybe the first at bat or second at bat, but because you knew maybe, later in the game, you don't want them to see everything you've got. But I think now from the get-go, it's just get these guys out however you can. It's max effort. If you got to throw all your pitches, if you got to, blow it out, throw 100 pitches through 5 innings, 4 innings, whatever it may be, just try to put zeros on the board. And we got guys in the bullpen that are going to come in and throw 100 miles an hour. So it didn't used to be like that. It used to be really embarrassing. And, I felt terrible if I didn't go at least 6 innings. And there were definitely plenty of times where I went 4 innings, 5 innings, 3 innings, and, you're hanging your head and you hate that. But I think nowadays it's just a little bit more, it's not as big of a deal. They've got guys in the bullpen that are going to cover for you. And the guys in the bullpen are so good now. You never had 8-9 guys on a team that could throw 100 miles an hour, 97 miles an hour. It's just crazy the amount of talent that's out there.
Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.